Alright, you guys. Welcome back. Can you hear me? I feel like you can hear me. Welcome back to Tomboy Official. Back on the podcast. I was just talking to some family members online. A lot of my older family members have learned how to use, I think they use Duo, and they do like a group chat, family group chat Sundays near sometime between 2:30, 3 o'clock. So I was trying to catch them so that I can say hi to everybody online who is available. I don't stay on there long, but yeah, I try to get out of town while there's still mostly sunlight out. I'll probably get back to my place near 5 p.m.-ish. I'll probably be settled in closer to 6. So, yeah. But yeah, that's kind of what I've been going for. Wow, why are these people like not moving at all? Like, what is going on here, people? Sorry, I'm driving, so this is going to become one of the easier ways for me to record, is while I'm on the road. Just because, oh man, I don't have like a decent Bluetooth headset right now, so that's a little challenging. But I try to keep things hands-free. So, other than touching the play button or the stop button, like I'm not editing while I drive or anything, but I'm just recording because it's like I get a good 2 hours of time. My stereo system isn't operating properly because when I got my battery and alternator, I got the alternator changed and had to get a new battery too. And then since then, the power locks on the doors, as well as so the power locks on the doors, as well as my whole entire stereo system doesn't work, and then the interior lights don't work. So all that's annoying. But yeah, otherwise things are okay. Had a good Christmas. It was a lot less painful than I thought it was going to be. But just following up with a little bit of therapy topics. I promised you guys a pamphlet not that long ago, and it's it takes a lot. I'm a little sensitive about my writing and stuff, so it takes me a while to really like release things. And I got out of the practice of writing regularly when I stopped blogging, and so I still like to have that outlet to write, but I record more audio. But I really miss writing. I just don't write as often as I used to, but it's one of my favorite things to do is writing still. So I'm really trying to get back into it because I fell off for a while. for my own personal reasons. Like sometimes when things in my life don't go kind of as planned, I've, I don't know where this started, but I did start getting into a bit of a bad habit of like quitting things that were becoming too overwhelming. Like there was a time when I was doing that, when I would stop doing things because they were overwhelming. And that was beneficial because I was like, okay, now I'm not getting overwhelmed by that. But it's like, it's never my intention to like totally stop doing something that I'm really like into. I just, it's been the past few years I've noticed that like probably almost 6 years now, ever since, I had a really bad experience in a grad school program. I've noticed that, my bounce back isn't as it used to be, where I would just bounce back like nothing ever happened and just keep going. Like there was something about that experience that kind of just took it out of me. And so I do notice it's harder for me to get back into stuff when I put it down. When I put it down for self-care reasons, and then I go to pick it back up again, it is taking me longer. But then I'm also getting more in depth with a lot of topics too. So it's like I'm developing a lot of depth to a lot of topics with the time that I've worked at, like in a mental health program and things like that, or multiple mental health programs by this point. It's been 2, 3 if you count practicums. But yeah, anyways, but I'm in no rush. You can tell because I got like 2 hours that I literally just got to drive for 2 whole hours. So it's going to be more than 2 hours too. Traffic's going to pick up. So I'm just kind of trying to make the best use of my time. I really hope, guys, that the audio comes out good on this. And I've been thinking more, during this Christmas time. Happy Kwanzaa to those of you who do Kwanzaa. I've been thinking more during this holiday time about like some of the stuff that I put down that, I'm like, okay, I'm kind of ready to get back into this. It helps me to get into my parents' house. Like for some reason, there's something about that space where it's like, it's a familiar space where I had so many years of creativity, and it just kind of brings it back for me. I just go back into my old bedroom and I just sit there. It's comfy. We've got central air now. We didn't have that when I was growing up, but we have central air in the house. So it's cozy. We got heat. It's a nice bedroom. I've got my space. I've got my privacy for the most part, even though it's like, my parents are still at the house and stuff. And like, I love them being there. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'd rather have them living and being at the house and happy and having a home than otherwise. But, sometimes I just like being alone too. I'm at an age where I kind of just need my space. But yeah, trying to get more of those creative outlets back. I think that's more what I need. And I get the ideas the gears kind of turning and churning up some ideas and realizing the stuff that I didn't really fully complete. So I'm gonna release some of the things that I didn't complete yet, and post it out for people. But right now, that's kind of where my head and heart is at. I'm just trying to make do with what I've got coming easy to me. I think I'm kind of at a space again where I can kind of rebuild different things, like different areas where I've been working on these things for like multiple years. I can kind of get back into them, keep working on them again, build on the stuff I've already got going on. Take it from there. So right now, I just want to talk about the topic of sobriety. It's something that, I know a lot of people in LGBT culture it's a struggle for a lot of people. I've spoken about this before, but I'm going to talk about it in a different light as well. But when it comes to like sobriety, a lot of times people make those decisions for themselves. And like I've been kind of dating someone who is a sober person, and that's kind of bringing up a lot of like different experiences for me as far as how I either realize my own like substance use, and how I kind of have my own experiences with, you know, like I'm not trying to be sober, but it's like I do see people around me sometimes like, okay, I'm cutting back from this, I'm cutting back from that. Like I had a friend near Pride that they were saying like, okay, I'm gonna be sober for, I don't know if it was like a month or whatever, and they cut back. I think it was at least for like a week or something, and then they were like, oh, like, because I think we got tickets for some pool parties and stuff during Pride, and I think they were saying like, oh, like it's going to be interesting that I won't be sober, like, that I will be sober during that time. And then, you know, they weren't sober during that time, so I wasn't really sure if they had just decided, hey, I'm gonna use some substances during this time or not, or what. And then I have another friend who, you know, I'm trying not to put everybody's business out there. They're not an LGBT person. They have a sister who is. They're an ally with the gay sister, who the ally friend, is trying to be sober and has been struggling with sobriety for what seems like since I've known them. I think one of their family members is going to pay them to be sober, and that seems cool. I think they're going to get money. I think they got money up front, and then they're going to like earn it over the next month by staying sober. So I thought that was really cool, that my friend is doing that, and I think it's needed. Their health is struggling otherwise, their finances struggling otherwise, relationships are struggling otherwise, and then like, so those are some of the experiences I've had with people who are trying to practice sobriety. And then, you know, I started going out on dates with somebody who was like, oh, like I'm sober, and I'm just like, oh, okay, like, and they're pretty open about it for the most part. Like I don't you know, get nosy in people's business about, you know, if they're gonna be sober or if they're gonna stop or use or whatever. Like I don't feel like that's my place. I'm not getting involved with somebody about their sobriety. But, you know, if someone brings it up to me, of course, you know, I don't mind talking to them about it, like, and from like a non-professional perspective. Like I don't want to be like involved talking to somebody about their sobriety, like in a way that's like they're using me as like their counselor, unless it's like someone that I actually have as a client. Then it's like, yes, we can talk about sobriety. But I think when it comes to, you know, another person's sobriety and then maybe your own sobriety, some things I'm kind of noticing that are some challenging aspects, or, if you're not really in the same mindset about it. Because I've never really considered sobriety other than a couple things that I notice impact me negatively, where I'm like, I could do without that in my life, right? So I'll mention some of those. One thing is waking up hungover or just groggy, not having energy because of, going out for drinks the night before. And that's one thing that I definitely notice, is that it can be a challenge to have that as an unfortunate situation. It can be a challenge to have people, like, just not, for myself to not be able to really understand sorry, there's somebody totally tailgating me. So annoying. LA drivers, man, you guys got to get it under control. But there can be a person who's sober. I think that's what I was trying to say. And then another person who isn't sober. And then you're trying to figure out, I think for myself anyways, the first step is, finding out, are there any aspects of your life that are negatively affected by anything you use, right? So I know that people age and things change, and like we all have our health things, and life isn't always going to be exactly the same all the time for your whole life. But okay, so some of the things on the personal end on my side that I notice change, my energy. So I don't like being just drained. That's not a good feeling, to wake up and feel like drained. Like, it's been a while since I've had like a proper hangover. Like, I haven't had any hangovers in a really long time. But just that experience of feeling drained, being drained of energy, not feeling energetic, not feeling like that, like focused. So having anything opposite of that. So I notice, and this is alcohol or cannabis, I notice that I wake up feeling maybe not as refreshed. My sleep cycles and patterns get really impacted by using substances. So alcohol makes me a little sleepy, a little drowsy, a little tired. Cannabis does the same. I might just knock out, fall asleep, especially with an edible. They're pretty heavy. But what I do notice, what I do feel, they don't really seem to get out of my system quickly. So that is one thing, one aspect that I do notice is kind of like not pleasant, because I have the kind of job and the kind of work where I'm like needing to be alert. I'm talking to people. I don't want people to be like, oh, like I'm talking to you and you're not listening, or you're not like all there. And I notice the difference between when I'm talking to someone, I'm interacting. Like, I'm always interacting. I'm not just like sitting and staring, but it's like, I notice the difference when I'm talking to someone and when it's like, okay, I'm like in the conversation. I'm providing like good, energy. I'm noticing that even now when I'm trying to talk and record. I did have a good kind of period today where I had some caffeine, got in a little bit of exercise, jumped in the shower, and then had a late lunch. And then, like I said, I popped on, I was talking to my mom and stuff, and then kind of popped online with some family members. And all of that was fine. I didn't have any major issues with any of that. But right now it's like just a little, well, it's kind of a lot of a distraction with driving, but just the amount of distraction from driving is like, I'm kind of like a little bit slower mentally. Find it a little more challenging to, feel like super alert. But then also it is like near like 3 p.m. on a Sunday. So it's like, yeah, I gotta cut myself some slack. It's the weekend. But I did have an edible last night. It was half of the amount of, so it's like 2.5 milligrams total. But a portion of it was CBN, a portion of it was indica, THC, and I don't know if it had CBD in it as well, but yeah, it was for sleep pretty much. But I also took it early because I wanted to sleep, and then I took it at like 6:30 or something when we were eating dinner because I wanted to sleep early. But I didn't really take into account that I wanted to watch another movie with my mom, but I didn't really take into account that when she was like doing some stuff that she needed to do around the house, it was going to take so long. So the last movie that we started watching, it was at like 10, and then probably close to 10:30 or so, usually around that 4-hour mark is where it starts to hit me heavy. So I started dozing a little bit, but I was like alert enough to make it through the movie. And then around midnight, like the movie was over and my mom seemed to have a lot of energy. She was talking, she was social. I was kind of like just trying to get out of the room and to the bedroom so I could like go to bed. I was like, dude, I'm not in the mood to talk. I was almost falling asleep, but I liked that we finished the movie and that we watched it, and like I wasn't going snowboarding anymore at that point because the roads were going to be bad first thing in the morning, and I like to go first thing in the morning. So I was like, well, I don't want to go before they plow the roads because I don't have chains, and like they don't plow the roads till like around maybe 8. So I woke up, it was 6 o'clock already, and it already said like the roads aren't plowed, and I already knew that that was going to happen, that the roads were going to be requiring chains. And so I didn't really want to drive all the way up there without chains in the hopes that they clear the roads or something. And then I didn't want to drive later because I'm like, there's going to be traffic now, because like if I don't leave by like 6:30 or maybe 7 at the latest, there's usually traffic after that point once I get to the mountain area. So it's like, that's annoying. At that point it just gets annoying. So I just stopped trying to do it, and then I basically was like, well, I'll just stay up all night. Well, not all night, but I'll just watch an extra movie with my mom till midnight. And so we did that. But yeah, like I said, like I slept after midnight and then woke up around 6 and then didn't really fully get like deeply back to sleep. So I was kind of groggy all morning, and it's just a challenge, I've been having this weird like back pain, and then like now I've got some tenderness in my back because I use this like back massager that digs in pretty deeply. And so I was massaging out kind of like the tension, but then it's like, now it's like deeper tension, so that's not pleasant. And then, sometimes I get this, like I hold a lot of like emotional energy in this area, like in, not my stomach, but it's like higher up than my stomach, lower than my chest, somewhere between. And so, when I'm just laying there on weekend mornings, that's not the most comfortable of times for me, because I'm just laying there and I'm like, this doesn't feel good. So yeah, I mean, it's just simple stuff like that where it's like, if I didn't have caffeine today, I don't really know how my energy would really be. And then there's also, just how it affects my energy the next day is hard. Alcohol, I haven't really had alcohol in a bit, so it's hard to really recall, but I do know that it does make me feel like relaxed, in a way, relaxed enough to sleep, but I do notice that I don't feel rested when I wake up. And it's almost the same with cannabis. It's like I feel okay if I have some coffee and stuff, but then I feel like, coffee affects my irritability levels, my anxiety levels, and then, my just kind of like general sleep the next day. If I'm having too much caffeine, then I'm affected with my sleep that night, So, as far as just like the day-to-day with the energy, with the, just managing my daily routine, my schedule, even a little bit, even if I'm like, okay, let me take half of the dose, a quarter of the dose, I still notice that I'm far groggier than I was before ever using any of this kind of stuff. And that's a problem because I don't like feeling that way in the morning. And then not so much now because I'm really way better with my finances now than what I used to be at a certain point in my life. But I noticed that, there was a point where, like I've mentioned this before, I used to have so much stress feeling in my life that I was not able to easily manage kind of how I spent my money. Like a big part of my spending was related to my stress levels. And I didn't even check. Like I was talking to my friend about this the other day because my friend was saying like that their finances, like they don't really stay on budget and don't check their finances. And I was like, yeah, like when I was in their, not really in their position, but like I've had times in my life where I've done that, where I just didn't check my bank. And it wasn't an issue, but it's like I was at this time when I wasn't checking, in addition to just shopping for groceries and buying gas and like the necessities, I was going out like maybe 3 times a week, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. That wasn't out of the norm for me to do that 3 times a week. And if you think of that, it was Ubers to and from, drinks while we were there, splitting bills or not, but like, yeah, it was a lot of money spent. There were a few nights where it would be like $60, $80 I'd spend in a night. Like that's rare for me now. It's like, shoot, now I'll eat dinner and then literally not drink just so that I can drive and not have to Uber, it's like, but it adds up, because if you're trying to be responsible too, it's like, well, I Uber because I'm drinking, or because I'm smoking weed, or because I'm eating edibles or whatever, I'll Uber. But then it's like, that's an extra, maybe, that can be an extra $20 or so one way. And that's if you aren't paying a lot. Like, it can be more. It can be, I paid like $30-$40 for an Uber. I paid more than that. But on average right now, I'd say $20-$25 if you count the fees and the tip. About $25, and that might be one way. So if I leave a little earlier, I try to convince my friends to meet when it's not peak time. So it's like, guys, let's not meet at peak hours because it costs more money. I like to do things earlier. So like if we're going to a bar or club or eating, I'd rather start at like before the rush. So before 6, let's get dinner at like 5, Ubers are going to be cheaper. You might hit a happy hour menu, and so you can have like a little bit cheaper options. But still, I mean, like, alcohol isn't free. Cannabis products are not free. And then, if you're doing everything the legal way, the way that's right, that's caring for your own safety and the safety of others, and keeping on point with just doing things right, then it's going to be pretty challenging sometimes to just have, a lot of money spent, or to even save, if you have financial goals and even try to like save, it can be so hard to just like save money sometimes. But sorry, I don't know what this buzzing sound is. I have something that's like buzzing in my car that's like, I didn't hear it all the way here, and now it's just it's something on the passenger side of my car that's like buzzing, because it's like either a couple pieces of plastic that are buzzing together or something. I don't know. I have some cracks in my dashboard. I think that's what it is. I think it's the pieces of cracked plastic in my dashboard just kind of vibrating. And it's annoying, so I apologize. But yeah. So yeah, spending a lot of money, that is really not good for my finances. It's like, and so say for example, if I wake up in the morning and it's like a Saturday or Sunday morning and I smoke a bowl, and then it's like, okay, I smoked the bowl, but then it's like, oh, maybe I'm out of edibles and I wanted some edibles for that night so that I could get my rest started on time. Maybe I'll, buy some edibles, but then if I smoked, I can't drive. So then it's like, okay, let me order delivery. And that $15 edible container can then become like $45 if it's like, well, you have a $35 minimum or a $25 minimum, and then you got to tip your delivery person, and then you get taxed like 3 times, and then there's, fees as well, all those fees add up, and then like when you're actually tipping, you're tipping on the combined, price, like the sum of all the prices of the $25 minimum plus the, say if it's like a $2.99 delivery fee, and then a service fee for like $1 or $2 or whatever the price is, and then a fee for, just all that added up, and then there's like 3 different types of tax, and then you're tipping, I usually tip 20%. You're tipping 20% on top of that. So I don't really feel like that is cheap. And it's for something that you would have gotten for $15 that now the price is jacked up even more. And then with having edibles, I know I'm going to have coffee in the morning. And so now I have to buy coffee. And it's just like added expenses. And so this is why I'm saying, like, it's important to look at the different aspects of how different substances might impact you. It doesn't necessarily mean, oh, I have a problem. Oh, I have like an addiction. Oh, I have an issue. It's more like, okay, what goals do I have? Like if I have no energy and I'm not focused and I'm not alert, it's really getting in the way of my creativity. You guys probably even noticed that. It's getting in the way of my alertness, my focus, my mornings, my work, and then my exercise routines and everything. Like I used to hike all the time. I used to do a lot of stuff. And a lot of this I'm not saying is only because of like any substances, but it's like, A lot of it is because, just a lot of lifestyle changes altogether, but substances are just one of the many things. Like, I've always had insomnia, and so, it was cool when I found something that kind of helped a little bit. That was really cool. I was like, okay, well, cannabis helps, but then by the morning it didn't really help. So I was like, well, that's not good. So many things might have a negative aspect to them, even though they're not inherently necessarily bad. If I'm not using it too much, or if I'm not, spending my rent money or like whatever, but it's like things like that can get so easily out of hand, because then it can get, like, I'll be honest, I did get to a point, I don't think it was really because of substances, but that was one of the multiple things. But like I said, I was so stressed, I wasn't checking my bank. I would do the whole Ubering and going out with friends and going out to eat, and it adds up. If you're doing that like 3 times a week, even though it was relatively cheap, it wasn't, because we were doing it 3 times a week. And then it's like, okay, now I have loans that I can take out, because my credit was like really good, and then I took those out. But then, like, I didn't really know a lot about the types of loans I was using, where it's like, okay, now it's going to be really hard to pay that off. So things like that, where it's like, okay, how are you gonna pay off a loan? Like, in my mind, it was like, okay, we got this party coming up, let me take out a loan. Like, that's kind of the mentality I was under. But it's like, well, if you're not checking your bank, if you're not checking your money, if you don't even know how much money you have, how are you gonna plan to like pay this back if you're not even looking at your bank, right? So if I'm thinking back on this now, and it's like, yeah, like, I had a problem dealing with my stress, managing my stress, balancing things out, and I found little, like, shortcuts, little things that I could do that helped here and there. Like, cannabis helped me sleep a little bit. Alcohol helped me kind of unwind and just kind of, like, forget the day a little bit. But then all the additional fees and prices that came with doing those things added up. And then the fact that, because of my stress and emotional, kind of the emotional aspect of everything going on with my stress levels, because I wasn't really like checking on it all the time. I wasn't really like doing anything to like notice if things were getting worse or better. But I've probably talked about this before, but I remember one time I was like calling somebody to like borrow money from family, and I was like, that was the time where I was like, okay, I don't ever want to this is the last time I'm making this call to borrow money from somebody, because it was like, I knew that I was going to come up short. I think I took a day off work so that I could apply for loans, like during the time that I was supposed to be working, because sometimes if you don't qualify, like during like off hours, like during the weekends or whatever, it actually, you can apply like during the daytime when it's like all the companies are open, so you kind of maximize your chances for getting approved and getting the money. And so I wasn't really getting the money because I wasn't paying them back or anything. So I was like, well, let me take off work to like figure this out. And then I was like, well, I know how to do side hustles and stuff, so let me like get into like a side hustle and see if I can make some cash real quick. And I can't remember how much I needed. It was probably like a couple $100, but it was embarrassing to be like, hey, I'm gonna be short on rent. And I noticed it like 2 days before or something, or like I knew for like a week. So I lost sleep over this because I was super stressed, staying up super late, trying to grind and do some work and get a couple bucks here and there. In the process, I learned a lot of skills, but because I was like, dude, I need this money. Once I realized I wasn't going to get any loans, I was like, man, I need this money. Even if it's going to be late, I need this money. And I didn't want to ask my landlord because the person who collects the rent is just obnoxious about it. So, just the fact that I remember last time when I had to pay late, and then they kept like knocking on my door, bothering me at my door, like they were just knocking on my door to like remind me again when you're gonna pay, and like kind of like I was like, oh my gosh, like, because it wasn't like a private conversation, like there's other people in the house and you can like overhear, so I'm kind of like, okay, that's a little embarrassing. And then having to borrow from family was embarrassing, and then I was like, man, I don't ever want to be in that position again, because it's not like I'm not working, it's like I'm working, so I should have money. So it was a little, it was kind of hard to explain, like, oh, I really don't have money, and like, I was like, okay, like I'm gonna need to borrow again, and like, because that wasn't the first time, and so I was kind of like, man, I really don't want to hit them up again, but it was the only option I had, and I was like, this is literally gonna have to be the last time. And that was the last time, and just because of the embarrassment of it all, I was just like they don't make me feel bad about it or anything. It wasn't like a big issue, but I was just like, this is too much. Like, this is too much to be having this this issue here. This is too much for me. So I kind of made it a point to figure out what was going on. That's when I started checking on my money, checking on my finances, and like, I'm gonna get this in order. This is bad. But it was just because I was, feeling too stressed to really check my accounts and stuff, that I wasn't really budgeting. Like, I was telling my friend the other day too, I was like, one of the easier ways to budget is just to simply, just calculate out, if you can't really sit down and budget, just know how much is coming out before your next pay period, know how much money you have to work with, and just divide the days. So if you have 10 days exactly, if on the 10th day you're going to get paid, you can count either 9 days or 10 days. But if you're going to get paid on time, you would count maybe 9 days, because you'll have a check on that 10th day that you're going to be able to use money again, and count that 9 days and just divide every day. So if you have $39 a day, then that's the money you use. I have $39 a day. I'm using $39 a day. And never go over that amount, because if you're not going to check your account, you want to have a buffer too, and you're not going to really be spending $39 a day. Most of us don't. If you buy food and you cook at home, if you're not driving like nearly 100 miles a day or something, or even more, like, I don't know how much, like, you'd have to be driving pretty far to spend $39 worth of gas a day. But say if that's your number, if your number is $39 a day, even if you buy breakfast, lunch, and dinner out, you can still manage that mental calculation of $39, right? And if you happen to go over, that $39 a day, then say if it was $20 over, then just subtract that out from the next day, or subtract it out divided by the remaining 8 days that you have now. Subtract out whatever 20 divided by 8 would be. Subtract a little more every day, so that now you don't have $39, you have a little less than $39 a day. But that's one way that, I was like, okay, if I'm overwhelmed, at the very least, when I get overwhelmed and I feel like I can't check my accounts, I'm going to go to that method of using like a portion a day of how much, like a limit a day. So, and that can vary. If I know I'm going out, then maybe I'll say, okay, I'll take $20 tomorrow, and I won't spend that money tomorrow or something. Like, you know, you'll know what to do. But I'm just trying to make the point that, I mean, I know I talked about the money thing, but it's like a lot of times stress levels have a lot to do with substances. Money has a lot to do with substances. Energy has a lot to do with substances. Sometimes when you notice your energy is dipping, or when your energy is too hyper because you had too much caffeine, then you have the issue of trying to come down from all that, right? Or sometimes when you notice the funds are running a little thin, then you got to kind of cut back. So just having limits and knowing kind of what it looks like when something's just not going well. Now for people who have, I think those are all the areas that were ever impacting for me. I mean, my physical health wasn't really too long-term impacted. I would say the biggest impact to my physical health was that, you know, I gained weight, mostly because I didn't have that energy in the morning, so I wasn't all like extra motivated to work out, and because I wasn't super motivated about working out, you know, and I got into a very sedentary lifestyle, especially working from home. It's like I'm even more sedentary than I would be working in an office, because at least in an office you can walk around in the office and stuff. Like if I'm working from home and I'm in a bedroom most of the day, my bedroom office, you know, it's like I'm not really walking around anywhere. So yeah, but just being aware of that and noticing that. But yeah, I would say if you are in a position where you're wanting to kind of start thinking about where you're at, where you yourself are at with substances, it can be challenging if you're an LGBT person and you're trying to hang out with your community and your safe spaces. A lot of those safe spaces do cater to a lot of substance use, and particularly alcohol use, but it's not uncommon for people to have other substances too. And so it's becoming, you know, hard for people. I've noticed that trends in substances are kind of changing with the Rona. I've noticed, maybe because I'm just speculating, that it may be because people's stress levels have become so high that, you know, once they get out, they just really are letting loose, or having that feeling of wanting to let loose, and that makes them feel a little bit more freedom to be able to kind of like go out, drink, take your mind off of other things. But it's really just a lot. It's a lot of it's a lot of different things. It's a lot to manage. It's a lot to deal with. It can be just a super challenging thing. So if you don't really know where to start, I mean, one place would be really to check and see if you have areas of your life that are impacted at all, and be very honest with yourself. Now, you don't have to really look only at the substances, but one thing that really helped me was to just look at different areas of my life and see, is there anything about the substances that are impacting this? Now, all those things that I mentioned to you guys earlier, that wasn't the only thing impacting them. And it's not the only thing that I experience an impact from. It's not all like, oh, because I use cannabis sometimes, or because I go out for drinks sometimes, all these things are impacted, you know, solely by this. That's not accurate. That wouldn't be accurate to say. Are things impacted? Yes. Are substances some level of the impact I've experienced, yes, the substances are somewhat some of the reason, but it's not the only reason. Like, my finances weren't impacted only because of substances. My stress levels weren't only impacted because of substances. My energy levels and focus and anxiety levels and all that stuff wasn't only impacted by substances, either using them or not using them. It wasn't only impacted by that. But did substances play a role? Yes, absolutely. And it took me a while to kind of come to that conclusion, because I was like, well, it's not an issue. I'm not addicted. I can stop, But then I didn't really have any alternative solutions either. I wasn't like making any major lifestyle changes either. So those are just some things that I keep in mind, where it's like, okay, like I've had experiences where maybe not everything was going 110% the way I wanted or needed for it to go, and maybe I'm feeling a little bit like sensitive about something, or a little like not really understanding about what is going on in my life. Like, maybe I have some low insight or not very aware. I'm not really doing a lot of introspective work, maybe. But I can tell when things are out of balance for me, just because my life is so structured, or at least it should be so structured. Like, it's set up in a way where it's like my weekends are always free, Saturday and Sunday, unless there's holidays or unless I take PTO, and then I'll have different days off, more days off and stuff like that. But yeah, my weekends are always free. My weekdays, I'm always working the same schedule, the same hours. Our breaks and lunch, we can kind of take them like at the same time, or any time that we feel like, actually, during the day. So we're not really forced to think too much about that. But yeah, we don't really I'm trying to think if there's anything out of the norm, and there's not. Like, my schedule kind of just stays the same all day, every day. So that's good, because then it helps me to kind of realize, okay, my energy is different this day than it was the other day, because like I'm doing the same thing pretty much. So just things like that keep me aware. Like, if my schedule was a little varying, I think it would be harder for me to kind of come to terms with kind of what's going on for me, what's difficult, what's easy, what's working, what's not. But it's like, because things are so consistently similar, other than like when we have meetings and all that kind of stuff, but it's still during the work shift, so I'm still working 8 to 4. So nothing really changes too much. And so yeah, it's just, trying to be aware, trying to do that introspective work. And when I do find something that's like off, just trying little by little, and knowing that it's not going to be an easy like change all of a sudden every time. It's going to be just like simple, that I want to change something, and then it's going to be totally different and exactly how I want tomorrow. If I do all this stuff today, it's going to be totally different tomorrow. And then having the bravery to actually, start. Because a lot of times, I notice for myself when there's anxiety with something, when there's no follow through, when I'm not actually having any follow through, and I'm just like in the research phase or in these learning phases, days and weeks and months, and I haven't really done anything on this part of a goal. And it's like, yeah, maybe I'm experiencing some anxiety about this, because it's like I could have started and been done by now. Kind of the same thing about how I was saying that I have these writings and stuff that I've been trying to release. And it's like, yeah, like if I was feeling totally confident about it, and if I didn't have any hesitations about it, I would have finished it and released it already. But I haven't, because, I do have some hang-ups about it right now. So, yeah. But it does help, it can be hard to be accountable to yourself too. Like some people do better being accountable to others. So having like a team, or that's why some people like NA, AA, but mostly trying to first figure out which categories are impacted in your life, and if there's any substances related to those categories. That can be a good first step. And then also, if you want some terminology, motivational interviewing is just one of the many forms of, and she called it like an evidence-based practice of, treatment, therapy, help, that people use to kind of first noticing where you are, noticing if there's an issue or anything like that. But it can be really hard to notice if there's any kind of problem. But I don't know, like, yeah, it can be really hard to notice if there's any kind of a problem. But just trying to hang in there, and just knowing that, a lot of things that we do or may use, maybe, a lot of times people say, don't do drugs, don't do this, don't do that. And I mean, a lot of us hear, all these things, and it's like, well, it seems like something fun. It seems like something that I notice this helps on this level. It seems like something that I can keep under control. And how many times, do we hear stories of people like, I thought I had it under control, it wasn't an issue, I thought I had this going good for myself, and then all of a sudden, the control is lost. There's no more control there. There's no more there's no more control there. And so just that in and of itself is it's one of those eye-opening things, right, where you're just like, all of us kind of feel like it's never gonna be me, it can't be me, it's not gonna be me, I'll never be having a problem like that. I can be not sober and never have any impact or any issue with it. And that might be true. I mean, not everybody gets an addiction or problem to the point where it's like a major, massive issue. Not everybody experiences loss of family, loss of a job, like you sleep in and lose your whole job, or not everybody experiences those types of things. Not everybody experiences all of that. Like what a classic, I don't want to say classic to like make it sound that's I don't like the way that word came out. I don't want to say classic, but like kind of like what a stereotypical view of addiction looks like, or substance problems. You can still have a dependence, you can still have an issue, you can still have a problem and not have it an actual like addiction. It might not be a physiological addiction, it might not be like an addiction, but the way I see it is, if this is my own personal view, if anybody's using a substance for a reason that they can't get to a certain place that they're trying to get to without the substance, whether that's relaxation or unwinding or feeling socially just more engaged with people, or having fun, or that I mentioned sleeping, or maybe being able to eat regular meals. Like, people use all kinds of substances for all kinds of reasons, and if you can't get to the reason without the substance, that's a good place to ask why. Because like I mentioned, I've had problems with certain things for my whole life. Like, I've had problems with sleep for my whole life, and I know why I have those sleep problems, and it makes sense to me why I have them. But other than using different forms of substances, and then there are options to take prescribed medicines too. Not everybody sees those as differently, or has a desire to take medicines from doctors too, especially when it's like some people don't trust or approve of or agree with Western medicine models and things like that. So it's like, I don't want to put ideas in people's heads, but that's kind of my view, is like, I don't know what's in that medicine, so I don't really want to take it. But then I do notice that certain substances kind of help me in a way to do what I need to do for certain reasons. And so I just think it's good to have periods of sobriety where maybe you're toughing it out. The risky part about that is that if you really aren't able to really function, and then you're trying to work and do all this stuff while you're like completely being sober, that can be a little bit on the risky side. Because if you really think, I'm not going to be able to ever sleep, and then I'm going to be making mistakes at work, or like I'm not going to be able to do this, or I'm not going to be able to do that, that might be true. That might be a really important thing to look at. And so, my heart goes out to people who are struggling, especially in these times, with anything along those lines. But I know right now is not a good time to be struggling with any more than what people are already naturally struggling with out there. Right now isn't a time that people want to really add more. There isn't really a time where people want to add more, but right now is really, really not a time where people want to add any more. There's a lot of challenges that come. So, I think that's kind of the majority of what I had to record on this topic for now. Look up MI, look up motivational interviewing. See if you could read some information on it and find out if you feel like you even know if you're trying to change, if you're wanting to change, if you're at one of the stages of change that you can identify, and just seeing like, hey, are you even at a place where you think you need to, or where someone else has told you did you need to be at a different stage of change or not? So, like, I don't know. I've had a conversation with my friends. Most of my close friends know this about me, that, you know, I've mentioned to them oftentimes that, you know, like, I'm not sober, but I think at our last holiday party, I didn't have any alcohol. I think we also went to a rave. I didn't have any alcohol. I did have something else that day, but I didn't have any alcohol. And yeah, there were some times where I was like, well, I don't really want to have any alcohol. Because I just didn't want it in my system. And, you know, because the next day I wanted to, like, do something active, and I'm like, well, you know, alcohol for me just doesn't really help the party, you know, like, so none of us drank at the rave, but we were all under the influence of other things. So that was a little different experience, because, like, yeah, some of the friends I have, like, we're around a lot of alcohol, a lot, because, like I mentioned, like, we hang out in a lot of LGBT spaces where it's like, you know, everybody knows the bartenders and everybody knows this person, that person, and so, you know, or the go-go dancers or whatever, like, people kind of know others in the community. So because we all kind of know each other like that, it can be hard when your friend's like a waiter and you don't buy drinks or like whatever, or like if it's a friend that you used to do some kind of drugs with or something, and it's like, it's kind of hard though, because, you know, those relationships seem so attached sometimes. Like, I even experienced that, like, even though, like I was saying, I don't think I have an addiction or a real dependence in a way that would be like severe, but I have friends that I smoke with, that I smoke out with. I have friends that I, you know, blaze up with and stuff, and mind you, where I live, it's legal, and I'm of legal age, and they are too. And so we can legally purchase stuff, and, you know, it's fine. But the interesting part about that is that I have friends where I can do that with, where I can use those substances freely with. And, you know, when they stop using them, it's kind of like, oh, we don't really hang out as much, I notice. So just trying to find those other activities to do and other stuff to hang out and do, where it's like we got into a habit of, like, you know, this is what we do when we're together, and now it's like, okay, if one of us is sober, now what do we do, you know? Or, you know, like I was saying, like, if there's someone I'm dating that's sober and I'm so used to going out to bars and going out to clubs, but they might not be comfortable in those environments, then it's like, well, now what do I do, you know? And one of my friends, he's not LGBT, but his brother, he mentioned his brother came to town, and I guess his brother doesn't really drink, and then my friend was like drinking, and his brother was like not really drinking a lot, so it was like it can be a little hard of an experience when, like, you're used to drinking and then people see you not drinking, and then they're like, they feel a little way about it, they feel kind of like, oh, you know. So, like, for me, one thing that kind of helps is that most of my friends know that I'm totally way more into weed than alcohol. So a lot of times just being like, like, I drove here, don't really feel like drinking, I got an early morning tomorrow, alcohol affects my sleep, people kind of just let me not drink. They don't pressure about it. And then, you know, I kind of feel like, okay, that's fine, like, nobody really bugs me about things. But, you know, and also, like, having a friend that recently had, I don't know what this friend was doing, but they were having some wild times, and so, just seeing that and just kind of how they were using different substances and stuff, it kind of, like, a lot of these things lately have had me questioning kind of my own different use of what I use, because I'm like, well, I don't feel like things are going that badly for me, but at the same time, it's like they're not going perfect either. And then I see another person like really struggling in life and then using substances to cope. Like, I'm not saying that in a judgmental way, but I'm just saying, like, I noticed that, you know, this person who never really drank is now drinking. You know, they're sending me pictures of their place in their kitchen or groceries they just bought or whatever, and then they've got a bunch of alcohol in their house in the background and stuff like that, that it's like, I have never known this person to really be drinking a lot or whatever. So, and it's not just alcohol, there's like multiple other kind of things involved too. So I'm just kind of like, oh my gosh, like, I don't want to be dealing with all these people and all their stuff, you know. And so that was one thing that contributed to me being like, okay, when I'm around my friends, when I'm around these certain friends, I'm just not going to be drinking as much, hardly at all. So I've hardly drank at all. I've hardly drank at all. But I'm trying to think, when was the last time I drank? I think one of my friends had a birthday in December, like early December. I didn't drink then. I didn't drink at Hanukkah. So I must have had alcohol maybe before that. I think I had, the last time I remember drinking was kind of near Halloween, like maybe the week after Halloween or so. Going to a party where I had drinks then. And then maybe the next weekend after that or something. I can't remember, but maybe the first couple weeks in November. So I don't know. I'm not really tracking it, but I just know I haven't really had any drinks. I haven't hardly gone to any bars or clubs or anything since then. So, you know, and all I have at my house, I have one hard kombucha and then one bottle of whiskey. And that's kind of all the alcohol I have left. So, and I haven't touched any of that. So I'm debating if I'm gonna still keep it just for when I go to like friends' houses and stuff. I might just bring it, so I'll have like a bring your own. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm not really into it. But yeah, so there's that. And then yeah, but those are kind of some ways that I've kind of coped with things, just like, because it's a little weird. It can feel a little awkward when you know, you're kind of known as like a person that parties and stuff like that. It can be kind of hard to be like in the party realm and not really under the influence of a whole bunch of stuff. So that's kind of something that I've noticed. But with that, I think I've been recording for quite a while now. And I'm hoping that there's some depth and helpful details within this content that I've recorded. Again, sometimes I'm just going to be a little bit distracted. I'm going to be a little bit on the groggy end. I'm going to have a little bit of challenges, you know, being super alert and having good quality everything. Like, today I just wanted to take advantage of having the time, and I hope that it's not too much of a burden to be recording in this environment where there's so much freaking background noise. There's so much, and I apologize. I am very sorry about that, but I mean, I got 2 hours to kill, guys. Like, I don't know what else to do. It's like, time is precious, you know. If people really hate these recordings with the background noise, with my loud car and the buzzing and the motorcycles passing me and, you know, all that kind of stuff, then I will make it a point to stop recording in the car, but I feel like I have there's an advantage that I have for my stereo system not working, being able to record, while I'm driving, because I don't have music I can listen to. I noticed last time when I was trying to listen to my music, I was trying to listen to Dave Ramsey, and then I was trying to listen to like some music while I was driving, just turning my phone on loudly, and I couldn't really do that. So I was like, well, this is kind of annoying. And I just forgot my Bluetooth speaker too, so it's like I don't really have anything that I can play. And then I have a warranty for the repair, and the people told me that they kind of thought I was lying, that and then they tried to like scam me into buying some other thing and then charging me for something else. It was going to be like an extra $100, and they said they'll only fix the actual item that they replaced. And so I'm like, well, you guys damaged this other stuff, but I guess because I didn't tell them right away, they think that it could have potentially happened at another time, which isn't accurate, but what are you gonna do? So but I paid a lot. I paid like $800 for something that I didn't have to pay that much money for, on top of a super pricey tow that was nearly $200. So I dropped nearly $1,000 on repairs, paying extra because I was like, I just don't want to deal with this. It was a convenience thing where I paid extra, but now I'm like, they screwed me, because now that they've damaged something, I can't really get the money back, or not end up getting charged. They're like, if we come out and it's not the battery or the alternator, they're going to charge me a fee for the diagnostic, even though I'm not getting a diagnostic, but that's just kind of their protocol. So I'm like, I didn't get the diagnostic because I knew exactly what the issue was, and then they didn't want to, honor the warranty. I paid for a warranty, but the warranty only covers those two parts, I guess, and not any other damages. And they said they don't fix stereos anyways. And so I'm like, okay, like my lights, my power doors, my power locks, my stereo, those were working fine before all this. So I mean, I've had this car for so long, I know when something is wrong and when something breaks related to something else. Like, everything else was working fine before then. So yeah, but I'm not saying that they broke it. They may not have broken it, but the repair that they did, it made it so that those areas of my car are not working. So yeah, it just sucks. But for that reason, that's why I'm recording while I drive, because I'm like, well, I can't listen to anything, I can't listen to music, and otherwise I'd probably just be like brainstorming, but it's like, this is kind of me brainstorming out loud. So anyways, yeah, if you guys do hate this, I'll definitely stop recording in the car, but I feel like I don't want to waste time when I can just make some recordings while I drive. But it might really not be good quality. I can already tell, because there's a whole lot of background noise, and the mics pick it up really easily. And I'm talking into iPhone earbuds, so the mic is a little low, like below my chin, so I'm not sure how good it's picking up, but I hope really good, and I hope it's not too annoying. I hope you guys have a good week. I'm gonna stop this recording, but thanks for listening.